So today we're speaking about Parashat Tetzaveh. It is a portion from Exodus 27 to 30, and it starts off with a command. And the command that is given is to the nation to bring the oil so that it can be fit for the burning of the menorah in the presence of the Father. So I think the way I want to start this today is to say that sometimes we approach the Father out of a position of uncertainty, out of a position of trying to make right what is wrong. But I was just during this whole week when I was thinking about this parasha, I was reminded every day that Messiah is standing before our Father, not for the purpose to remind Israel of how wrong they are, and how broken and whatever is going on in our lives, but He's standing there to represent us for acceptance. It is for goodwill. It is so that we can enter into our Father's presence hidden in Messiah. Because remember, on our own, we are not going into the Holy of Holies at all. We are in there because of what Messiah has done. And if we look at the clothing, the clothing of the high priest today, it is evident that we are carried in the life of the high priest. And today, if you think about where this portion begins with oil in the beginning, us bringing the oil that's going to be burnt in the menorah, and it ends off with the incense altar. Remember last week we started speaking about the implements in the tabernacle, and we spoke about the altar and the laver and some of the others. But today included is the incense altar. So this portion starts out with the oil that is meant for the lighting in the menorah, and it ends off with the incense altar. Our prayer is coming into the presence of the Father. So as we are entering into the Father's presence, we must remember that light does two things. Light firstly exposes the things that are hidden, exposes darkness. But secondly, it reveals the glory and the beauty of who the Father is and who Messiah is. So I was wondering, as we approach, now all of us are believers. We are believers in Messiah Yeshua. We've been saved by the blood of the Lamb. And we are worshipping our Father and drawing close to Him every day. So, as a son or a daughter, our relation to our Father is not from outside of the camp anymore. It is within the camp, within the bounds of the covenant, within a place of knowing the relationship that we have and how we get to grow and be transformed into the image of the Son. And through Messiah, every one of us has been invited into the very presence of the Father in the model of the tabernacle. Right? So, and I'm saying this in preparation for today's story, so that we can know that as we are being transformed into the image of the Son, we do so through a life of prayer and a life of worship and studying the Word and glorifying the Father in every aspect of our life. But there is a little bit of a difference in the way that we have, that Christianity understands the prayer life and the Hebraic understanding of prayer life. What is the Hebrew word for prayer? Do you know? Lahit palel is the word for prayer in Hebrew, and it's a verb, and it's a reflexive verb. It means something that think about getting up in the morning. It is, when you get up in the morning, the first thing that you typically do is you lahit kaleach. You take a shower. Okay? So listen to the word. Lahit raketz is to wash. Lahit labesh is to get dressed, and lahit staper is to get a haircut. Some of us do that more often than others. So It's things that happens to yourself. Now think about all of these words. Lehit palel. Same format of the verb. So as we are entering into the presence of the Father, facilitated by the blood of the Lamb, in a covenant relationship with the Father, we are speaking to our Father, and He is perfect, ultimately good, unchanging. All the qualities that we know so well of our Father. What are we doing when we are praying? Essentially, what are we doing? We're bringing ourselves before the Father and say, Father, help us. Help us to be transformed. Change us, renew us, lead us, guide us so that your name can be glorified in our lives. We are not there to really change our Father's mind about anything. We are there to say, Father, here we are. Help us to change us so that we can be a reflection of who the Son is. Do you agree? So typically, people would go and say, give information to the Father. Father, our sister is sick. Can you show your love and your compassion and your grace to her? Do you think our Father doesn't know this woman? That He's not intimately involved in her life? That His heart is not to show love, grace, compassion to her? It's I think our approach is sometimes there's a misunderstanding. We need to say, Father, help your will to be revealed in this Spirit. Let her experience your full compassion. Let her experience everything that she does, not be a stumbling block in her own life, but that your glory will be revealed in her life. And this is the progression as we are approaching the Father as a son and a daughter, to say that we are within this family, the covenantal family, and help us to change, to be renewed, so that we can grow in the image of the Son. Now on that trend, what about this verse? Who can identify with this verse? Because we quote it often. We say the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? Does that verse apply to your life and my life as believers? This is deceitful above all things, desperately sick. If you've been a believer for many years, and we are praying and we're asking the Father to transform us and help us to be changed and renewed, should this be our testimony? I don't think so. I think there must be there's a nuance to this that we can only see in the Hebrew text, and I'm going to try to show it to you. And there are two words that I want to focus on. And it's in connection with the robes of the high priest. We'll get to that soon. You'll understand now. The first word is deceitful and the other word is sick. So we'll try to show what it means. And the word for the first word is deceitful is the word akov, crooked. It says akov, halev, michal, ve'anush, hu mi yadeach. Okay, so it says, crooked is the heart above all, and is mortally ill. Who shall know him? So if we think about the word, that first word that's been used, akov, do you recognize that word? Do you recognize that word akov? Yaakov. It gives the same word as Yaakov. It says, crooked is the heart from all things. And it starts off, and I think it starts off from a place where we do not know the Father at all. It starts off externally from the covenant. We come out of the world and we meet Him, and we must recognize that we are crooked and twisted, and that we need His salvation and His cleansing blood, His word in our lives, so that we can change. But even if we are a part of the family, this text still applies to your life and mine, because if you look at the bottom verses, it also means an uneven or a rugged terrain, something to walk that's difficult to walk or navigate. So if there is a time of difficulty in your life as a believer, if you're under stress, if you're under emotional stress, your heart is difficult to navigate because you can't trust it. Because the emotional world, your experience goes all over the place, and it's difficult for us to navigate from this point, a straight line to the solution. Our heart makes all sort of turns with us, and it's difficult to navigate. I don't know, is there anyone that can sort of identify with this principle? So, if we are under pressure, if we go through a time of stress, we must recognize this is an opportunity that the Father is bringing in your life to bring you from a place where you used to be deceitful and get you to a place where your path is straight. It helps us, it guides us, we can rely on the guidance of the Spirit. We can look at the examples of the Word, the principles of the Word to enable us to deal with the problems that we used to have, the rocky areas, and everything that is hidden in our hearts, so that we can walk a straight line in a covenantal relationship with our Father. So it means to have a rugged or a twisting path inside the person. We can't walk it safely without guidance. And what it appears to, a quiet little person standing in front of you, if I'm approached and offended, I might turn into a different person altogether. And what the Father tries to do in me is to guide me in a way that my ways are predictable, even if you do put an enormous amount of pressure on me. So it is like broken soil, one of these footpaadjies that we go in the mountain. It's not a straight line, it's difficult to navigate. But the more that we walk the road with our Father, the more that we pray, the more that we say, Father, change me, help me, guide me, the more predictable our response becomes. The more stable we become in the presence of the Father. So, the second word, sick, there is the word anush. And the word anush means basically wounded. So think of our life responses. We were walking as a small child, as a young person, and we became emotionally wounded. And because of the wound, the emotional wound, whatever happened in our lives, we develop a mechanism, defensive walls, ways to protect ourselves. And that wounded heart stops love to come in. It stops us from being compassionate to other people. All sorts of things happen in our lives. And we build a thick wall around it that we don't even recognize that there used to be or still is woundedness in our lives. And what the Father helps us is through times of difficulty, through times of stress, exposes these wounded areas. And the thick scab has grown over the thing, and now we need to heal it, get it healed. All right, so anush means to be wounded, to be mortally hurt, incurably sick, beyond self-repair. There's nothing we can do about it. The heart is deceitful. The heart is unreliable, unable to navigate a straight route on its own, and it is wounded beyond the point of self-repair. Who can understand it? So if you find yourself in a situation, and this is sort of an encouragement, if you find yourself in a situation and the way you respond, you can almost stand outside of yourself and look at the way that you are responding and think, is this the way the Father expects me to respond in this situation? And if there is any fleshliness, if there is anything that you would like to defend yourself against action, anything that causes aggression that is not from the Father, we should look at it, because the Father is helping you. Make the most of that situation so that we can be changed and renewed in the image of the Son. So Jeremiah says that the heart isn't only sinful as it used to be without a covenantal relationship in our Messiah. It is the way it is because of what happened in your life. And the Father is walking with you down this long road of 70, 80, 90 years, sometimes more, to help you to get to a point where you are fully restored and renewed in the image of the Son. The point is from your own perspective and with your own will and emotions and knowledge and whatever you can do, you cannot heal it on your own. It is only the Father through His Spirit and through the restoration of His Word and His involvement in your life, His relationship with you, that we can become stable, predictable, without wounds in your life, so that when pressure points, people push your buttons, you will not react in a way that is not honoring the Father and glorifying Him above all. So to get to that point, though, we are in need of light. Do you agree? So it's the Word says that the Ruach of the Father, His Spirit, is like a light that searches your innermost being and revealing the things that needs to be changed. So if you look at our Torah portion of the day, it says, this is the opening verse. Verse 20 says, and you will command the children of Israel that they bring you pure olive oil, beaten for light, to cause the lamp to burn always. Okay, so whose responsibility is it to keep the lamps burning? Your responsibility and mine. We are to bring the oil. I wonder if we are looking at the fruits of the Spirit, if this is not strongly related to that point. If your fruit is healthy, available for, or so that you will submit it to pressure so that the oil can be extruded, if that oil is fit for burning in the menorah. And if it's not, there's another opportunity for you to grow, to forgive, to ask forgiveness, so that this can be the case. So verse 20 says, submit your fruit to the priest, and then your fruit will be used so that the menorah can burn. I was saying to Yaku this morning, somewhere in the week I was lying awake at night, and I was thinking, and I thought, what would have been the priest's experience when he walked into the holy place? We looked at the tabernacle model in the youth building this morning, and I was reminded of that. And I was thinking, maybe on Shavuot, when we get together, maybe we should switch off all the lights, everything, light the menorah, and we can walk in the light of the menorah, because that was the amount of light that the priest had available to do all of his tasks. How familiar are we with the environment that we are in, that we can in near darkness perform all of our tasks, because it must be so ingrained in our lives. So, we need shemen. The word shemen there is, for oil, it is not that. Maybe I should take off Yosef. Shemen. Okay, so this is, pictographically, this is like front teeth. Because it destroys, it puts pressure on it, it's also judgment. This is chaos, and this is life. Okay? Shemen. So if the fruit of your life, the fruit that we are bringing, destroys the chaos and brings forth life, then it produces light. So the fruit that we are bearing in the world before each other must be to destroy the possible chaos that exists in a broken heart, and a heart that is not guided by the Spirit, so that the light burns, that everything is illuminated, that we can intercede for the table of showbread that's on the other side, so that we can be renewed, restored, and we are fresh at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, the following Shabbat, was it chalot? Was it chalas that was baked? I wonder if it was chalas. I think it was. When the breads were taken out, they were as fresh as that they were baked a week ago. So as we are walking in obedience to the Word, we are producing the fruit of the Spirit. And the evidence of our fruit that is good and right is the amount of light that we reflect of Messiah that's coming out of our lives. So we know that Exodus 20 says that we are commanded to bring the oil to produce light. And there's an association with verse 24 of Romans 11 that says that we have been grafted into the olive tree so that we, as part of the nations, can bring some of the fruit. So it's not only native Israel's responsibility to bring the olives so that we can have light. It's your responsibility and mine to bring the light, to be a reflection of the light of the kingdom as we are walking in this day. So Yeshua was and is the light of the world, as John 8:12 says. He proclaimed himself to be the light of the world. It's interesting. The first thing that our Father said is, let light be. And he saw that light was good. And he divided in creation. He divided light and darkness, and he called the light day and the darkness night. Who was the first high priest? Aharon. Aharon's name, it comes from, the root word for Aharon's name is Or, Aleph Resh. It is an Aleph. Marikia, am I right? It's an Ayin or an Aleph? Yeah, I thought so. Just checking. I tend to be wrong these days. Okay, Aleph Resh. Aharon, he was the light bearer as an example of the great high priest. All the sons of Aharon would be high priests. Why this? And can always wonder about this. Why Aharon? Why was his sons to be the light bearers for the future? It is part of the lineage. It is to be an example of the light that he was bearing is transferred to his family, and they are an example of bearing lights. So, where is the dwelling place of our Father's glory in the tabernacle? It is on the mercy seat. It is on the Aron. The root word is light. So, the light bearer brings the blood once a year to the place where the light dwells, and to ask the Father for atonement, for interceding on behalf of the nation. And he is an example of the Acharon, the ultimate light, the one who Messiah will be a reflection of in the time that he came, the high priest that he will be in the Ezekiel's temple. And remember, there's an amazing progression in the volumes here, because we saw a tiny little tabernacle that a couple of people could carry in the wilderness. Then it became a temple in Jerusalem. Then, second temple, broken down, rebuilt. The temple of Herodes was mentioned as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Then we find the Ezekiel 40 temple, which includes about the whole of Jerusalem. And then we go to the New Jerusalem, where the light of Messiah will shine, and the sun and the moon will be of no need because of the brilliance of the light. So you can see it starts small and it grows into something amazing. So the same progression is seen here. So Yeshua, the mediator, the Son of the living Elohim, that is the light of the world, starts small as a revelation in Judea, in the Galilee. And as people accept it, and the spreading of the light is across the globe, it will end one day, or it will go to a day where his light will be all-consuming and all-seeing. So Yeshua is the mediator. He is the embodiment of our Father's presence, and he will come again as the light of the world, the light of creation, to bear and reveal the divine light in our lives and in creation. So when the high priest stands before our Father, he represents us for acceptance. He is not there to expose your sin. He is there to represent us for acceptance. So when he stands there, we recognize and realize the robe of righteousness is the priestly garments. Okay, so we are clothed in priestly garments within Messiah. He brings us before the Father, not to cover the humiliation that we would have had without him. And so as we are looking at the high priest clothing today, we realize, and I knew it, but I haven't seen it to the fullness that I'm seeing it now, is the way that Messiah bears the kingdom on himself as he walks and functions in his duty as a high priest. Because remember, in the light of his presence, there is fullness of joy. The only possible way that we can stand in the presence of Messiah and of the Father is when the darkness has been taken out of us, and that we can be part of his kingdom of light. And there's a reflection of the light of Messiah that is within our lives. So without Messiah, if you are not part of the covenantal relationship with our Father through Messiah, then light exposes guilt. You will see the reality of who he is, and you will acknowledge that you are wrong. And you will come before him and ask for forgiveness and make teshuvah, turn around and approach him. Okay? You will realize without him, as in the days at Mount Sinai, Exodus 19, Israel, when they stood before the Father, and you read it in Psalm 19, is that when his awesomeness was displayed, they were afraid. They felt exposed. They felt they couldn't be in his presence. They said to Moses, you speak to the Father, we will listen to your voice. Because they realized that his set apartness is dangerous and not to be approached. And they hid away from him. One always wonders, I'm wondering, in the middle of the camp is the tabernacle. We are camping around this tabernacle. And the Shekinah, the glory of the Father is in your midst. Where will you look? Where will your gaze be the whole day? My word, isn't it amazing to think that his revealed presence is just almost a stone throw away? Yet they tested, in that situation, they tested the Father 10 times. So, I think Jeremiah 17:9 was still in progress. They came from a place of slavery, of severe woundedness, depression, and they was changed and renewed to realizing and recognizing who our Father is. But the thing is, with Messiah, if we are in Messiah, it leads us to joy, and then the set apartness of our Father becomes our delight, and we are drawn to him. We cannot but run to him in every situation. So it says that in Exodus 28 that his garments were for kavod and tiferet. It is for glory and for beauty. And the high priest at that stage and today represents people that are still working through some issues. There is one of our friends here that if you greet him and you say, how are you doing? He says, working through some issues. So we all, and I think you know what it is, we're all working through issues. And if we say we don't, maybe you've got an issue. No, maybe pride is a little bitty there. So it is one of the expressions of grace that the Father gives us to be able to become, I don't want to say become older. Difficult day for me to say it. It's a grace that is extended to us to grow in years so that we can get to a knowledge of who he is, that we can appreciate him active and involved in our lives, and that all of the woelinge, the turmoil in a young life can settle down, and as we get older we appreciate more and more what the Father is doing in our lives. In this portion, we see scriptures that says that there is a band on the high priest's head. He is kadosh. He is set apart to our Father. Kadosh le Tetzaveh. Exodus 28. He wears garments of glory and kavod and tiferet. The name of Israel is on the breast. The names of Israel is on the breastplates, and that the names of the tribes of Israel is carried on his shoulders. So who does the high priest represent when he is functioning, when he is ministering in the holy place? He represents the kingdom. He represents Israel. He represents us that are grafted in to the olive tree. And if we are in him, then you must know that as Israel was named and counted in the wilderness with a half a shekel, so your name and my name is lifted up before the Father in Messiah. We are not just... David made the mistake at a stage to count the troops. We are not a number. We are not part of the crowd. We are not a faceless people. We are an individual that stands in Messiah before the Father and worshiping him in everything that we are doing. So in Messiah we are carried on his shoulders. So you do not stand in difficult times on your own. And when you are going through a difficult day, we must know that he is carrying us. We are close to his heart. We are in his thoughts. Messiah is taking care of us at all times. And you know what? Our culture is actually based on shaming us. And you feel as an orphan, pushed away, and you sit in the corner and you're not worthy. Okay, so there is the aspect, and there is a little bit of a aspect of that in the teaching of the original sin as well. We can speak about it at a different time. That says that you are born as sinful right from the beginning and you're not worthy. But the Father says that he has called you and you are perfectly made. The Psalm says that you are perfectly knit together, wonderfully and fearfully made, and he calls you into his presence, and that's where we are going. So if we can get the image of Messiah that's got every one of our names on his heart, in his mind, carrying us, interceding for us, we will stand in relationship with the Father confidently. So King Solomon had a request when he became king. He was still a young man. What was he, 16 years old? I think he was a young man about that age. And he said to the Father in 1 Kings 3:9, what did he ask? What was his request? Can you remember? What was his request that he asked the Father when he was about to be anointed? He asked for wisdom and understanding. He says, so give your servant an understanding mind to govern your people so that I can discern between good and evil. Otherwise, how will I be able to govern this great people of yours? So, we miss something here. We miss something. And you know what we miss? He says, V'natati le'avodecha lev shomea lishpot. Those words there is what we miss primarily. A lev shomea. What does it say? It says, Father, give me a heart that hears. And the Father gave him wisdom and understanding out of a heart that can hear. So what are we asking for? Are we, as we are growing closer and closer to the Father, we realize that the only way forward is to hear his voice, to be sensitive to the leading of his Spirit, to be obedient to what he reveals to us in Scripture, so that our hearts are humble and true, more predictable as we are going along the way, and the wounds that we accommodated in our lives and it formed our characters to a certain extent can be dealt with and removed, and so that we can glorify our Father's name in every situation, even when someone stops abruptly before you in traffic. In that situation too. So, Devarim 6 says, in the Shema, it says, we must hear and obey, recognizing who the Father is. And what does he say? We will love him with all of our hearts, all of our beings, and all of our strength. So, if all of those three areas are healed and renewed, available for service without defect, then we can be a true reflection of what Messiah wants us to be like in this world. And this is our challenge. It's not to be arrogant, to be prideful and say, I am who I am. I've been formed this way, and this is who I am. This is my character. And let's not go there. It is the willingness to know that even the way that I respond to people during pressure and under pressure might be a symptom of something that I need to ask the Father for healing and restoration in my life. We must have a heart that is soft and pliable, willing to serve. Because remember, in the tabernacle model, the priesthood is bringing every morning and every evening there are sacrifices. The Lamb of our Father is available in the morning, in the evening, every day of the week. He is there to help us, to restore us, to cover the problems that we are having. And He is calling us for responsibility and responsible behavior so that we can change our lives and that our lives will become a reflection of who Messiah wants us to be. So, okay, let's just get back to this. King Solomon asks, help me to hear your word. Help me that my heart will hear my calling, what I need to do, where I need to go. Help me to be a person that can hear your word so that I can lishpot, so that I can judge, so that I can govern, so that the responsibilities that you have given me in this world, I can live out responsibly so that it can glorify what you are doing. In the time of Abraham, it was said to our father said to Abraham, it's a small command. He says, walk before me and be perfect. You know? What does it mean? Walk before me. Abraham, I'm calling you to a land that you do not know. Walk the land. Do not build a house. That's why Abraham lived in a tent. He walked the land. And remember last week we had, who was here last week? Leon was here last week. And he spoke about the fact that they walked from the Jordan, from the river to the sea, and what it meant for them to be able to walk through the Judean mountains and the connection that you find to the land if you're walking the land. So the problem with that is, in Genesis 17:1 it says, and when Abraham was 99 years old, Adonai appeared to him and said to him, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be perfect. If I say that word, walk before the Father and be perfect, what's the first thing that we are saying, what we are thinking? We can't be perfect. We can walk before Him, we can't be perfect. It says, what does it say? It says, Hitalech lefnei v'hiye tamim actually. Flawless. It says, walk before my face, flawless. And that's what He says to you and me. Walk before me and be flawless. But there's a key word of grace in there. He says, and become. And that is amazing. If it says, walk before me, walk with me. When you walk in the area that I have given this territory to you, realize when you walk before my face. What does flawless mean though? Because we think it's perfection. Do everything. We need to be perfect when we walk before the Father. But that's not actually the idea. What our Father says to Abraham here, He says, wander in this land, walk up and down, into my walk before me, just function in front of me, to this land that I'm giving you. And it says, unbroken, every day. Do it regularly. Do it in a faithful pattern, such as the eternal light. You're going to make mistakes, Abraham. You're not going to be perfect. But walk in my face. Walk before me. And as you walk before me, you will be healed. You will be restored. You will come from a place where you don't understand my ways, that you cannot apply. Famine comes on the land. What do? You flee to Egypt. That's a test. Let me help you through that. Our Father guides him. He gives him His word. There's a famine in the land. What happens? Okay, he goes to Avimelech. All right, makes the same mistakes. But in this process, our Father is helping Abraham to understand his character, his ways. And at the end, Abraham becomes the father of the faith. He becomes the one that we look to as a friend of our Father. Because in the time that he was living in our Father's face, he learned his character. He trusted our Father. He knew that he was faithful and that he was true. He wasn't standing on his own. He realized that the covenant that our Father made with him, he was the covenant partner that is going to carry him through this whole process. So, it does not say that we need to be perfect when we approach the Father, but it says that our hearts must be changed and renewed, giving Him the opportunity to help us, to guide us into life. So we've got an imperfect state at the moment, that we are walking before our Father. All of us recognize that. None of us are at a place where perfection has come. But we are dependent on Him to help us to change, to show us the little places of Aina, where we respond in ways that is not true to the character of the kingdom, where things happen and we become frustrated and fearful. These are things that the Father gives us as grace so that we can be changed, that we can learn to know Him in everything that we do. So, Jeremiah 6:79, we said that the heart is deceitful above all things when we start out. We know it's a heart that is difficult to navigate because of woundedness. Okay? What does verse 10 say? I, Tetzaveh, search the heart and test the mind. He's involved in our lives. He's carrying us. Look at the rope, look at the ephod, look at the onyx stones, look at what's on his the plaque of gold on his forehead. He's carrying us in all situations, and He says, I will search your heart and I will test your mind. Because you know what? You don't know your own heart. I don't know my own heart. I think I am at a place where sometimes I discover I am not on such stable ground as I think I am. Because the Father helps me to show me through trials and all sorts of things that I'm going through, that I am dependent on Him, on His light, on His guidance to help guide me. So there's good news. The Father is not surprised. He's not shocked. He knows how to navigate the broken ground of our hearts. He knows every detail and He knows how to restore it. We must just give Him the opportunity to do so in our lives. So how do we transform this? How do we transform our lives from a place of we're coming from the outside and we're coming closer and closer, and we as part of the priesthood should function in the holy place. Remember, this is where we are at. We are priests of the Most High, so we are functioning in the holy place, interceding for one another, being a reflection of the light, offering prayers of incense that goes to the Father. So obedience comes from a heart of desire, a desire to serve our Father in everything that we are doing. It is a heart that's responding of whatever is in the kingdom, what is a need in the kingdom and I need to address. Father, what can I do to be a blessing to these people? What can I do as your servant and your son? It doesn't mean that it's a requirement. It is an opportunity to serve. And there are, just as a friendly reminder, if you look at the thing that Ross sends out every week, there are opportunities, ample opportunities to serve. Okay? Ample opportunities. We need to make use of it. So it's love-driven. It is not fear-driven. We cannot get people into the kingdom on the basis of fear. We can get them into the kingdom on the basis of love. So if you look at those two words for testing, it is, our Father says, He searched the heart and He tests the mind. So the first one is to search out, choker, to search. The second one, bachan, is to examine, to test, to scrutinize. Our Father gives us a teaching, He gives us information, He teaches us His word, and then He sees what's our understanding. If we misunderstand it, we will have another test. If we pass the test, we will be reminded of that truth in the future by another test. We are working through our lives so that we can be changed and renewed into the image of the Son. So, it is not so much for judgment in terms of punishment. That is not the notion. The reason for judgment is not punishment. The reason for judgment is correction. It's restoration. It is to help us to function in His presence so that we are a blessing to Him. Verse 14 of that chapter says, Heal me, O Tetzaveh, and I shall be healed. Save me and I will be saved, for you are my praise. So we start out from a heart deceitful above all things, but we are going to a place where we realize we cannot, other than be submitted to a life of obedience and to worshiping our Father, go from a place of akov to yashar. Yashar is to be straight. If you look at the name of Israel, Israel is a derivative of yashar. It's to be straight. If we are growing into the image of the Son, our lives of a heart that makes turns, that takes us places that you don't want to be, it takes us to a place where we become a reflection of who our Father is and what He wants us to do. So, as the high priest is ministering in the tabernacle, as the priesthood is doing their thing every day, the hope and the direction that we are growing is that we will become a people of integrity, predictable in everything that we do. Being able to walk in times of pressure. Pressure is coming on the earth. Hanley gave me a notice. I haven't read it. Let's read it and see what types of pressure is in our lives. She says, the US have attacked Israel just 10 o'clock. Iran is aiming for Tel Aviv and other Israeli areas. What did I say? The US attacked Iran. Isn't that what I said? I'm glad you're listening. It seems like reading and speaking is at the same time is difficult for me. The US attacked Iran just before 10, and Iran is aiming at Israel, at Tel Aviv. What's the type of pressures in our lives compared to the pressures that these people are experiencing? There are days ahead in our lives, and I don't know if this is that, but there are days ahead in our lives where the pressures of the world is going to test us. And we need to be restored in such a manner that we do not battle with an unstable heart, with a heart that harbors own wounds and is not helpful in times where other people rely on you for guidance. So for the purposes and the benefit of the kingdom, Let's look and study what the high priest is doing in the tabernacle. When he brings us into the presence of the Father and says, Father, restore them, renew them, guide them, protect them for a time such as this. We're coming from a place of sickness to a place of healing. We cannot do that healing. We can only submit and ask the Father to do that healing in our lives. So the goal is not self-repair, but we must submit ourselves to the healing that comes from the Father. And that healing mostly takes place by asking forgiveness and extending forgiveness. So Ezekiel says, He will give us a new heart and a new spirit I will put into you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. For what purpose? What is the next verse? To cause you to walk in my word and to be obedient to my ways. The Father is taking us into a place where He's removing the stones and the difficulties and the wounds out of our hearts. When Messiah is interceding for us continually, so that we can be changed and renewed, that we can walk together as a family. We will be totally united as a nation, as a family, a fellowship, a nation, to stand and ask the Father for guidance and protection, and how we can be of an example of His compassion in the kingdom that we are standing in. So Messiah represents us. If you look at last week, the priesthood brings us as a people that are consecrated, that are dedicated to Him alone, anointed before our Father to do the work of the kingdom. He takes us to the altar where we are worshiping Him. He leads us to the laver where we are washing the sacrifice that we are bringing in our effort to come nearer, to bring a korban, to come nearer to Him. He illuminates us through the lampstand, and He provides the incense altar with the coals of the altar outside to put heat under our prayers so that our prayers are effective for our Father. So if you look at the high priest garment, and if you look at the whole garment from top to bottom, it's a representation by the high priest, bringing us as these people before the face of the Father and say, Father, these are the people that's part of your kingdom. Protect them, guide them, heal them, so that we can live a life that are completely dedicated to Him. In the turban says, Kadosh to Tetzaveh. Where we are carried, we are not standing in these days when things like this is going wrong in the world. We must know we are not standing alone. Israel is not standing alone. They are being carried by the high priest. They are being carried close to his heart because they are cherished. We are cherished. We are clothed in a garment that speaks of royalty, of blue and purple and reds, the colors of royalty. Life exists because of the pomegranates that's around the hem of the garment that speaks of fruitfulness, His word, and life. The sash says that we are bound together for service. So, as we are walking forward in this time, you know what, every year we are saying this, but I believe every year it's true, is that as we are in this period that we are living now, every year as we're going through the cycles of the festivals, we are looking at, and what phase is the moon right now? Do you know? It's going to full moon. We are probably a few days away from full moon. Then it will wane to new moon. You know what happens then? That's the first of Aviv. 15 days later is Pesach. We are standing at a time where things are getting intense. And this is not the time that we must sit back and say, maybe I should take a break. Just a little bit of a sabbatical maybe. Maybe we should take a rest. We've been equipped for a time such as this. We spoke about it this morning. There's a blood red moon on the evening of Purim. What does it say? I don't know, but it's saying something. It's there for a purpose. I think it's the third year in a row on Purim that there is a blood red moon. The Father is saying, prepare your hearts. Prepare yourself. Be ready. Because the time of the unveiling of the Messiah is drawing close. So as we are walking in this time and we are looking at the person of Messiah, we're looking at his clothing, we know that that clothing is not only to be fancy. It's not only to be beautiful. It is in every facet of that clothing you are represented. Because Messiah is carrying us into the presence of our Father. So let us proclaim our trust in Him, even in this situation. Let us proclaim our trust in Him to say, Father, only You can help us and guide us and protect us. South Africa has set ourselves on the forefront of engaging Israel. Help us and protect us and guide us in this time. There's an immense intensification of these trends in the world right now. How is it going to influence our reality? Help us to shine the light of the kingdom in where we are at the moment. Help us to remain a soft heart that is usable and of use in the kingdom. If you know that you're a person that snaps like this, ask your Father why. And be open to suggestions. Change your heart. Be renewed. Get a soft, pliable heart so that the realities of the kingdom can be more vividly seen in our lives. So, as we are walking before the Father, as we know Abraham walked before the Father, when did the Father get to love him? He loved him from the beginning. As he was changing his life and being renewed, the Father loved him all through. He loves us with our defects, with our faults, with everything that we have. It is not love and relationship that's the issue. It is effectiveness in the kingdom. Help us, Father, to be effective in the kingdom. So all of us are being tested in one way or another. And this is the beauty of this, is our Father's ways are bespoke. It's made perfectly to fit your life. Your tests are different from my tests, and everybody experiences tests on different ways. And this is because the Father is involved in your life, and He wants us to grow and to be renewed, so that, and this is probably the crux, is in order that our paths can be straight, our hearts can be healed, so that we can glorify our Father. This parasha starts with bringing light. Father, help us in our lives, that our lives that resembles love, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control, temperance, all of the fruit of the facets of the fruit of the Spirit can be taken and offered to You, so that You can extrude the oil and use it for the light of the kingdom, so that our lives can be to the glory of Tetzaveh, even in a time like this.